I'm joined on a Zoom call by singer, songwriter, and producer SBR Bone Star, who's worked with
Oh,
some of the best names in the industry. Her current release drive is being played out across many radio stations, including Phoenix FM, because we love it. It's a nod to electronica with a modern edge. It's got a hook that will keep you singing along after the track's finished, and just fantastic vocals that will knock you sideways. So we've
well,
spoken off and on for ages. This is the first time
yeah.
we've actually talking face to face, so it's lovely to meet
Yes,
you.
it's ace to meet you as well. It's so lovely. Thank you for this. I really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. And this is, I didn't realise, your first radio interview.
Yes, I know. Yeah. So,
So I
I mean,
got in there first.
yeah, you're my first radio play, and you're my first, and we all know how well that went. But yeah, I sent Michelle a non-radio edit. Why this lady's still talking to me, I don't know. She's the patience of a saint. But yes, the fact that you've given me now my first and my first interview is that's awesome. I couldn't have pictured a better person
Oh,
to.
thank you. Thank
And whereas other DJs would blacklist you and throw you into the ocean, you were so kind. You could have easily like just blacklisted me and
you.
shot me to the radio cops. I don't know how it works, but
No.
you were so
They
kind.
knock on your door and come in.
Yeah, just send the heavies round. But you were just so lovely. You were like, right, A, great track. B, absolutely not how it's done. Let me have a quick word. You were so kind. Thank God. Yeah.
You're welcome. Now, let's talk about you. When did you first discover your love for music?
I had a very musical mama. Who I was going to her band practices from the age of about 3. My first dad was a sound engineer and was just obsessed with music. And I wrote my first musical at the age of 7 about the rise of the machines. I was a lonely, weird child.
And is that because you were completely surrounded by music from a young age? So were you
Yeah.
encouraged to get up and sing and do stuff with the band and everything?
Not so much with mum's band because they were quite big and they were like a cabaret act. They did a lot of covers and stuff, but they did big venues. But like my auntie worked in a ballet school, and we didn't have a lot of money in my family, but my auntie would get us free tickets, so we'd get to go and see all these shows. And so it was this fantastic, and at that point, you know, museums and all this kind of stuff was free, so we just did everything that was cultural, that was within our pay grade. So yeah, just lots and lots of music and radio every 5 minutes. And when mum had a bit of money, you know, she'd buy vinyls. And so yeah, it was just from an early age, it was just music was life. We had a television that was the size of an envelope, but we had the most
Yeah.
amazing sound system.
And when did you discover your voice, that you could actually sing?
I don't know. I mean, I remember sort of sitting with my grandma in church and sort of singing along with them, and she would take me along with her. And I enjoyed that. I loved harmonies. Like the first thing I remember about music is like the harmonies in my mom's band, and how people could all sing something different, but it somehow wove itself together. And you know, age 3, I picked up on that, and that was when I fell in love with the voice as a musical instrument.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, how did they do that? I didn't just see it as like something somebody did. It was like this. I couldn't put my finger on it. I was fascinated. I was like, how did they do that? And so I would start singing with my mom, and then we went and did like folk clubs and blues clubs and stuff when I was like an early teenager.
Mm.
And yeah.
And do you notate, or is everything just come through as it is? I mean, are you just a natural that you don't notate anything down? Because sometimes
No, I
when
can't.
you learn music, you get stuck in a rut, and people who don't learn it, sometimes they come out with different processes and different tunes. I feel anyway. That's because I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I can't do note stuff. It's too
Uh,
similar to numbers, and I am I've got dyscalculia, so numbers literally give me like anxiety. I can't, they dance around on the page like this, and I found that musical notes did the same. But I would hear a piece of music, I'd sit down at the piano, and I could play it, or if somebody would sing it, I could sing it. So it's all sort of, yeah, by ear really,
mm.
which was difficult for a while. But now these days, when you sing into your you know, your Logic or your digital audio workspace, and it'll just do it for you.
Yeah.
Thank God. You know, technology has come to our rescue. As you know, it's not always on our side, as me and you probably figured out, but yeah, there's ways around it these days, which is good.
Musicians that have inspired you. So what was do you remember the first singer that you thought, oh my God, I wish I could be like that? Or was there, is there a few different singers and musicians that you've kind of, that have inspired you to get your sound?
There was lots of different things that I heard. I mean, a lot of my mum's records really spoke to me. She listened to a lot of like hooked on classics. So it was like all the classical music I was seeing at the ballet, but with these like disco beats, which were 10 years previous to when I was listening to them. But I love the combination. And then there was like, she listened to a lot of funk and Motown stuff. My dad was listening to big soundscapey stuff. We listened to War of the Worlds about 1,000 million times when I was a child. But the first song that really stuck out to me, and this is interesting because I would say it's still my biggest influence on my music to this day. I was in the house by myself. It was about 1990. MTV had just come on, and it was Massive Attack's Unfinished Symphony.
Yeah.
And it just, my world just stopped. It just stopped because I was like, what is this? It had the orchestra in it, which I was so used to, but it had this amazing new beat. And none of my friends, all my friends were listening to New Kids on the Block, and it was this little slice of something that no one else I knew liked, that wasn't borrowed from anybody else, something that I found and that spoke to me. And to this day, that song absolutely moves me to my core to this day.
Yeah, it's a superb track.
That's amazing.
Now, when you got in contact with me and you sent me the first initial email to have a listen, you said you'd taken a break from music. So why did you take a break?
I had cancer when I was 20. And it was quite a scary experience, but pretty soon after I was recovering the next year, I was picked up by a producer whose main artist was on a hiatus due to an injury. And they were looking for they wanted Amy Winehouse's, Joss Stone's, Katie Mellier's. He put the call out and some musician friends of mine put me forward. I got together, we put a demo together, everything was going great. There was like 5 labels who were interested in me, but I was being very manhandled.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the way it was going. I wanted to be Amy Winehouse, and they were turning me into Katie Mellier. And no offense to her, but we know it became the most iconic.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like the way that it was going, but my voice was not making any difference. Nobody cared. And I thought, I need to get out of this before too much is invested in me and I make enemies. Yeah. And so thank goodness 21-year-old me had a brain. My tattoo career was taken off at that point. And then it just, I played and I wrote for years, but I just never did anything with it. And then last September, after COVID, everybody just had these awakenings, didn't they? And it just felt like the right time to start writing this kind of music I'd always wanted to write.
And so you do tattoos, because I know you've got some fantastic tattoos. If you're listening to this on air, you won't see them, but if you're watching the video, you will. So are these all your designs that you've done?
Oh, the bits and bobs on there. Never look at a tattoo as tattoos. We are a mess. It's like, the chef, you got the a la carte chef, but he goes home and has a pot noodle for his dinner. Don't ever look at a tattoo as tattoos. There's always going to be a hot mess. Yeah.
And is that something you still do? Is that something you still do occasionally?
Oh, yeah. Got my own business.
Fabulous.
But it's been like 23 years, so...
I've had no tattoos and I'd like to get one. So now I've found somebody that I know.
That makes you a rebel. It makes you like, back in the day, it was like you had a tattoo over the bar, like the people in the bar parted like the Red Sea, and you were like, whoa, watch out. She's probably got a knife and she's going to do some jazz dancing like West Side Story. Whereas now it's like the person without the tattoos, you're the cool one. Mm-hmm. You're the black sheep and you're the cool one.
Well, I've always fancied it, but I'm a little bit. I know everyone probably says this to you. It's the pain threshold. It's when they start off and you go, actually, no.
Oh no! Yeah. I always do a test line. I always do a test line on people.
Oh right.
So it's a good way of dipping your toe in, so you don't just like punch the tattoo artist and run screaming through the wall like something out of a Warner Brothers cartoon. It doesn't. Nobody ever does that anyway. It's not that bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't be covered.
Yes. Now. Songwriting, how do you start the songwriting process? Are you somebody who's forever writing lyrics down? Do you just get a beat in your head, or different every time?
All of the above. Yeah, it just depends. Sometimes if I'm craving writing a song, I'll just sit down and noodle out some melodies, and then I get a nice tune and I think, what does that sound like? Does that sound like longing? Does it sound like love? Does it sound like... But it's days like today when I woke up and I was like, oh, I really want to write a song about this. And then I'm like, right, well, how's that going to sound? And then I have to start building it from another direction. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like to have too set a process, because I think inspiration can come from anywhere. So I like to have a nice sort of Batman belt of options of just ways to approach this.
I asked another musician this the other week, and I said, do you ever feel a song isn't actually from you, it comes from somewhere else? So do you ever have songs where you go, I don't know, that wasn't me, but it felt like it came through you onto the page? And
It frightens the life out of me, because I listen back to some of my songs and I just think, am I ever going to write a song like that again? And it moves me like somebody else wrote it. Like I listen and I feel so conceited, because I'm sat there with tears in my eyes, and it's like, get over yourself, you wrote it. But it doesn't always feel that way. Sometimes it really does feel like somebody channeled through you and used you as a vessel. I'm completely with whoever said that.
Drive, which is a new release, which I've been loving playing on the show, and I know loads of other stations have picked it up as well. How did that song come together, and describe it for people that have not heard it?
I knew I wanted, for this EP, I wanted to really play around with more of the sound aesthetic of my music and have fun with it. I wanted to really play around with this very dark electro feel. So I went back to that era, and I called on like the movies, which was just such a big part, like visuals, music and visuals hand in hand, aren't they? And I thought about summertime, best friends, that whole feeling when you're like trapped in your hometown and you're like, let's just get out of here, these guys don't understand us, and you feel like it's you and your best friend against the world. And I really wanted to create a track that, just rather than it being about boys or girls or whatever else, it's that when you're kind of in love with your best friend and you and her are just this like force to be reckoned with. And so I just really wanted to call on that.
Say that again. Got somebody messaging me. I'll cut this bit out. Who's messaging me? Shut off. Hold on. We just do that and that. Right, bear with me 1 second. I'll cut that bit out. Sorry about that, Samantha. There you go. Oh, there we go. All back to normal. We'll cut that bit.
It's so slow. I've had to turn mine off, because I know everyone will be like, I know what you're doing.
What are you doing?
Yeah. What I said I was doing on Facebook 5 minutes ago. Thank you for ringing me and checking up on me. Thank you. But yeah, so Drive's just about that whole, like, just that carefree feeling of your teens, and then my producer got hold of it and turned it into this super dark, awesome, edgy. Oh, he makes me sound so cool. He really does. I have a lot to thank him for. I really do. Stephen Cole, Watt Studio, by the way.
And he's been doing all of your stuff, because I was going to ask you about the production. He's done the whole EP.
Yeah, he's done both of my EPs so far, and I just decided, if I've waited 20 years to do this, I didn't want to half do it. I wanted to really make an impact, and I wasn't even going to promote it that much. I just thought, look, if it's money, it's money. But if I'm going to put music out there, even if just 2 people hear it, I want to know I've done my best. And he was halfway through doing the first EP, and he contacted me and said, you need to do something with this. I think people would really like it. And he was like the first person who really, well, he wasn't. There were the people who encouraged me to get going, but he had a big vision for this. And he's the reason why I ended up sort of pestering you, actually.
Now, the EP...
Blame him.
which is called Tidal. I've already heard Trustful and Ride, and I really like Ride, actually. Release date is later this month. That's coming out. Is that right?
It's this Sunday, actually.
It's Sunday. Wow, yeah.
Sunday the 26th, yeah.
Of course it is. We're nearly at the end of June. I don't know where I am. So what's going to be the next release from that EP, and what can people expect from the EP? Tell us about the tracks.
Oh, well, I'm about to throw everybody a huge curveball this autumn. I'm going down a slightly different route. We're traveling through time again to the 90s, early 2000s. And this album is going to be, I'm going to really call upon that autumnal feel. But this album is very folklore. It's very fairy tales, folklore, Brothers Grimm, lots of stories of kings and queens and witches. But it's talking about modern day problems. It highlights a lot of feminist issues, a lot of the way, because I talk about a lot of the problems that witchy women have had over the centuries, and how we've been persecuted for being who we are, and so there's a lot of that in there. There's a lot of talks of just struggles in society, but it's done in this very storybook. You can imagine a witch sitting around a fire going, let me tell you a story, and it creaking open, and then like Prodigy turning up behind her like, yeah, let's go. So, yeah, it's gonna be, it's a lot darker. I'm getting a lot more serious with the topic. It's very atmospheric. I want it to feel like you're lost in the woods, but you're under a spell. Just very, yeah. I'm probably, and people who love Tidal are going to be like, what on earth is happening now? What is this? But I don't know, you got to keep people on their toes.
So how many tunes are on this on Tidal?
Tidal, there's 5 tracks
Yeah.
again. And then Bad Kind, which is the autumn release, is going to be 8. It's a full album. I'm kicking it old school and
Yeah.
doing an album.
Good for you. I like to know people
Yeah.
do albums and it's just not all EPs. That's a good
I
one.
know.
Because that's the way it's moved, hasn't it? It's kind of, it's great for people releasing music, as you know, because years ago you were saying like with the label and everything's controlled, and now you have complete control over
Yeah.
everything you release, what you sing, what you write, how you look, everything.
Yeah, exactly. We're in the driving seat. I just found that with the EPs, I was finding it difficult to really build a story. And some of my favorite albums are ones that you put on, and an hour later, you kind of come out of the other side of it like, whoa, like you've been asleep, like you've been in a dream.
Yeah.
And I, as much as I love the EPs and I get that they're cost effective, and that people want to release like more often and in smaller amounts, but for me, I really wanted to give myself that experience of taking somebody into a whole world and just losing them for an hour.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was I was like, I will just find the money, I'll make it happen. But it's a big one.
And also the track listings. If I've said this before on here, when artists put an album together, they don't go, oh, put this one first, that one second. It's a journey. So when you listen from the beginning, they want you to listen from the very first song right the way through to the end, because it's a journey, and it takes ages, doesn't it, to go, that's going to be first, that's second, that's third. No, swap it round.
Yeah. And then there's always one track where it doesn't matter where you put it and how much you love it, it just doesn't fit, and you think, you're going to have to go and you have to put it back on its shelf and go, maybe next time. And I decided today I'm going to write this new track for the album. And I always tend to do that. This is something that I've done with the last 2 releases. I like finally craft it, and then there's like one that I've spent 4 hours on, and I go, here, have this, and I throw it in like a frisbee, and it hits Steve, my producer, on the head like dunk. And he's like, oh great, okay. And they're always the more popular ones, weirdly.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because you get songs you spend, as you said, hours or weeks doing, and then one song you just go, oh, that came out really easy. That's why I think you do get that kind of thing from somewhere else. That those are the songs that come out easy. I think the ones that just come from somewhere else.
That's it. Well, Drive was one of those. Drive was a last minute track. I just said to him, I felt in its place previously had been this quite slow track, and then I just, as I was submitting the tracks over, I just said to Steve, I said, it's too sleepy. It's not got that 80s electric, feel. And I just had this idea for a song, that energy, and I was just like, right, there you go. And again, there you go. It's like one of the most favorite tracks of the EP so far.
I'm feeling sorry for Steve. He must get things thrown at his head by the sounds of it. There you go.
He's going to be bald by the time. He's got a very luscious head of hair, but I swear that man's going to be bald by the time he gets rid of me.
Now, tell me one thing about you that your fans might not know.
Why would you do this to me? No.
Yes.
I thought by now you'd understand this is dangerous territory for me. I have no filter. I don't know. Sometimes okay, all right. Sometimes I speak to people who are no longer in their bodies. Sometimes people still transmit their energy frequency when they are no longer in their bodies, and I speak to a great many people who have supposedly passed on but are alive and well and kicking it in the universe. Could be just early onset dementia, who knows, but there you go. All right, bye most of my followers. Bye, it's been great.
That's a good thing. What's the biggest misconception people have about you?
One that I'm getting quite a lot is like, and I mentioned this on a video the other day, and I know that this resonated with you as well, as I think women get underestimated quite a lot in the music, and I get a lot of people going, so who writes your music for you?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I did. And they're like, no, I know you do. And there's like a real patting on the head, and they go, no, but who actually writes it? And you're like, no, women can do this, believe it or not. Lots of things we can do. And that on this journey, I seem to be getting underestimated left, right, and center, which is, is it a compliment? I don't know, but it doesn't feel like it. But yeah, I think you were very instrumental. I was very apologetic when I first came into this time around, and you kind of smacked that biscuit right out of my hand, and you went, lady, we do not have the space or time to be apologetic for our presence. You need to fight for this. And I will never forget that. It really resonated with me. And I thought, yeah, you need to strap a pair on, girl. Come on, get in there.
Yes. or not strap your hair on.
Well, no.
Shoes. She's talking about shoes.
Yes, pair of glasses. I don't know. Yes, sorry. You knew what you were letting yourself in for here.
So we're going to finish the interview with Drive, which is out now. I suggest you stay listening because it's a fantastic track. It's being played all over the place at the moment as well. You've got the album, EP Tidal coming out, and then you've got your album coming out a little bit later in the year. And if people want to find you, you're on socials everywhere. It's SBR Bone Star. Why SBR Bone Star?
Okay. So the SBR is my 3 initials given to me by my 3 parents, which is another story altogether. And then when I typed that in, there was 1 million SBRs, unfortunately. I don't know why. It's very common and attractive accumulation of letters, apparently. So I needed something that would pick me out from that pile. And I thought it needs to be something that rhymes and then something that's kind of interesting. And because I am who I am, I love this concept that we are made of stardust. We're sort of literally born from fresh air inside our mummy's tummies, and then our skeletons and everything that covers them take a slightly different road. And then while our skeletons are covered in all this self-conscious stardust, and while that is happening, we dance and we sing and we watch sunsets and we cry at sad music and we do all this really weird, wacky stuff that doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of beautiful. And then when that little partnership ends, our little skeleton lies down and rests, and our stardust blows off and becomes something else. And I just think it's such a fleeting, magical, freaky, wonderful little moment. And I thought, well, that's where I am, and that's where we all are. If you're listening to my music and I'm making the music, it means that we are these little sparkly covered skeletons. And so Bone and Star, it's like it's a descriptor of where we all are. If you're listening to me and I'm singing to you, it's like that's where we are right now. And it rhymes.
Well, also, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. That is probably one of the best answers, I think, for anybody ever describing their name before. That's amazing. That's really, and you just, oh, miss, I'll cut the bit out where you said, and it rhymes. But that was absolutely fantastic. So find out more about SBR Bone and Star. All the details are up with this interview. It's been fantastic to talk to you. Thank you ever so much. It's lovely. I feel like I've known you. It's weird. Some people you just connect with, and I feel like I've known you for much, much longer.
Same. I'm so glad that we connected, and I'm so glad for everything you've helped me with so far. I said to you at the start, I said, I want to make memories with really cool people. And you're up there in my Hall of Fame already as just this awesome person who's just, you're so funny and you make me laugh, but you've been so kind to me as well. And I really appreciate the support. I really do. It means everything.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you, and the best of luck with everything. Take care.